Hi everybody. We have the privilege of doing part 2 of our wonderful Oklahoma textbook. As I said before, call me crazy, but I'm the type of person that will sit down and read the Principal's Guide to School Budgeting. I think it's a good read and I think it's a fun book. It's something that if you actually want to learn about schools and you're interested in them, it's a good read. This book is not one that you're going to sit down and read because it's basically factual, tells you what you need to know to be effective, and it's a good reference source. So what I've done in the second part is I've pulled everything after page 29 that is relevant to you as a building leader. We're going to talk about things that you're going to see, why it's important, and why it matters to you. So, we're revisiting this again. I'm not going to cover as much as I did the first half of the course. That's a very dry reading and it's difficult. Look at the syllabus to know that I'm skipping around and I'm looking at certain pages. If there's anything I can do to help with this, let me know. I'm still learning Oklahoma, but I'm only looking at the second part of this related to your role as a building principal. So one of the things that I consider to be Southern is when you have fees for access to school activities. I'm not used to this. This was crazy to read this and understand this, but this is fascinating to me. School districts can charge cable companies for broadcasting athletic events on television and use them for revenue. Where I'm from, high school football rules, but they don't play any other sporting events on television. Moving to Oklahoma, I find that there's a lot of high school sports that are big and on television as well, including basketball. Not in the Northeast, it's kind of football or bust for everything. So school districts can charge cable companies for broadcasting rights, and this can be a good source of revenue. If you negotiate it properly, it can bring in money. But no fee is charged to the print media to write about games because the print media is there to support them, promote them, and then it helps you with broadcasting. So advertising rights on scoreboards. This is permitted in the state of Oklahoma at schools. It's not denying free speech rights. You are welcome to seek out advertising revenue if it benefits your school district. I taught and I graduated from Baldwin-Whitehall School District in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Our stadium was called Coca-Cola Civic Stadium because Coke made this massive donation to put a Coke logo on the scoreboard. There was so much controversy that was involved in it. When I taught there, it was interesting because we were told that at all events we had to have Coke products. If people brought in Pepsi, you were encouraged to give them a plastic cup to pour their Pepsi in so that you were supporting Coke products. And that was very unique to me. But here, advertising rights on scoreboards, this is a common thing, and it's a way that you can potentially make money as well. So it's interesting that there are rights to photography as well. You have the right to different sources of revenue, and you can possibly have photography rights as well, and you can sell those as well. And you can see this on page 84 and 85 of the textbook. So what can the general fund be used to purchase? It can do land, buildings, improvement of sites for construction, addition to buildings, remodeling, professional service, heating and air conditioning, and replacement of a destroyed building. It cannot be used to do any of this. The general fund, it's not permitted to do this. That has to come from other money sources as well. The building fund is used for this stuff. It's used for security systems, salaries of security personnel, if you have to remodel or repair, anything related to furniture, equipment, or software, telecommunication services. That's what you would use a building fund for, not a general fund for. So, gifts. Districts, you can't make gifts with public funds, but a school district can't accept gifts. One of the challenges, though, in this state is that sometimes gifts that are given to schools are stock ownership. If that happens, the district has to convert the stock ownership to money almost instantaneously. So, something else that's interesting. Districts can permit non-school groups to use school property. They can rent it out, they can lease it, they can license it, and they can use it for money. If you want to have a car race in a district-owned stadium, you don't have to restrict the use to educational purposes. The school board can do whatever they want with the property for purposes of general public interest, and also to raise money. So if the building's available, you're welcome to use it. So there are different state tax exemptions that you should be aware of. Things related to tangible personal property service to the districts. Any food that's not used for profit, you should be state tax exempt from. If there's services through public construction, you shouldn't be taxed on that as well. And anything that's done to raise funds to benefit the school should have a tax exemption. And each district has their own form and their own procedure for submitting this. So, extracurricular events. Admission tickets are non-taxable, and so are concessions at athletic events because they are there to benefit the school. So, fuel is also tax exempt if it's being used for school vehicle or for 4-H club or FFA as well. School buses, gas is non-taxed. If the school district collects money from the students for a photographer for the school and sends the photographer payment, then there's no sales tax owed by the photographer as well, which is a tremendous benefit for them. So, state aid formula, if you're a district leader, you need to know this. I'm only going to mention things that could impact you in your building. You need to remember that this state tries for equal distribution, but since we have so many districts and so many counties here, it's very impossible to manage. We try for it. It's there, but it's difficult to manage. So our textbook notes that state aid formula is designed to have equity greater than enrollment count. So we'll look at diverse district student enrollment, and we have different accounts based on urban versus rural, growing and declining student bodies, and different low, high, ad valorem local tax bases. So the first thing that you need to know, and this is a big idea and it's something that you have to keep in mind. We use a weighted cost per pupil allocation. We look at daily membership. Most states will actually use this as the do-all and end-all. If students show up to school, they get more money. We weight it in the state of Oklahoma, which I think is unique and different. So we try to give higher weights to certain grades. The grades in this state that are considered to get the least amount of weight are 3rd through 6th grade. 7 through 12 are harder to educate equitably. Because of that, they get more. But our state gives general education students, early childhood, kindergarten, 1st and 2nd, the highest allocation. So we're in a state that values early childhood education, which I love. That's awesome, and it shows us that this state really cares about that, and will put more weight on there, which in theory means if there's more weight, there should be lower class sizes as well. So then we look at disabilities. The severity of disabilities increases the weights. If you have students that have higher disabilities, there's more per pupil expenditure money coming in. Then we look at bilingual, gifted and talented, and economically disadvantaged. This state considers somebody economically disadvantaged whether or not the student qualifies for free and reduced lunch. That's the maker that says whether something is economically disadvantaged. So then we have 2 other systems. We have small school or sparsity-isolation weight. Basically, if you are in a district where the number of square miles in the district is greater than 1/4 of the average square miles, then you're going to get additional funding. So if you're in a large district, you're going to get more money. And if a district has less than 529 students in it, you'll get more money. The small school idea is done to benefit the students. That way you can hire personnel to teach them. You can't pay them as much, but at least you're giving them funding. And the sparsity isolation is done for transportation departments, because if you have this large district, buses are going to be a problem. Those buses are going to have to run a lot, and that's going to cost gas money, and that's going to cut into the budget as well. So our state gives more money to veteran and experienced teachers with more advanced degrees. But what I need to stress is the teachers might not see that money. The district sees that money, but that doesn't mean that it goes in teacher pay. So that's a controversial issue, and that can be a problem as well. You need to note this if you're somebody starting a district in a building. If you have a high population of teachers with a bachelor's degree and 0 to 2 years of experience, you lose money in the state aid. This state encourages veteran teachers, but in my opinion, I would almost rather start a building where I can hire my own staff with minimal experience, train them, condition them. It'll help me stay and help me improve my position as a principal because I'm having my own people in there, but you actually lose money in the state aid context by doing that. So I give this to you just so you know this. State aid is distributed 8% in August, 10% in September, 9% all through October through April, 10% in May, and 9% in June. So one of the other things that I have to mention on state aid is that it's tentative. If the state has said they're going to distribute revenue, if they don't receive the funding they're supposed to get, they don't have to distribute it. If the taxes don't come in, districts will not receive the proper allocations. This causes and creates a problem as well. So the last thing we want to look at is this notion of travel reimbursement. All your teachers want to go to conferences. I'm a professor. I want to go to conferences. We want to do it as much as we can. That's just the way it is. There are laws in the state of Oklahoma to understand how to regulate what travel is. For the most part, if you do in-state travel, it's going to be easier than out-of-state travel. Less laws regulate that. So in our state, the school board actually polices how people are reimbursed for travel. The district does reimbursement if it's district-level work or sponsored visits to the district. But the school board gets to determine everything. They get to determine whether or not you pay out front for the travel or you pay out of pocket and then you get reimbursed for it. That is entirely up to the school board. And we can use sponsored travel from the activity fund as well, which that's interesting and different than a lot of other states, because a lot of other states don't do that. So that's it. This is our final look at this chapter in this textbook. I kind of went over some of the big ideas you'll see as a building principle of the Oklahoma state law. If there's anything else I can do to help related to this, please let me know. Thank you.